My name is Jim Krol. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Taoti Creative. This is the second video in our three-part limited video series on the future of association websites. For us, the future is about designing and developing what we're calling a member-driven experience. It's about a website that's personalized for users. The first video, we had Brandon Schmidtling, who is the vice president of and the director of user experience here at Taoti. He talked about what is a member driven experience. Today, we're going to welcome Weldon Perry. He's the information technology director at AAMI, which is the Association for the Advancement of Medical Instrumentation. He's going to talk about the association's point of view when it comes to creating a member driven experience. Our third video, we're going to welcome Justin Sykes. He's Toyota's VP of Development. He's going to talk about the technology behind creating a member-driven experience. So let's get into it and welcome Weldon. Weldon, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So to kind of start off, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Sure thing. So I've been in IT for about 10 years now, and I've been with Amy for about six, and I've headed up our IT department for the last 5 years or so. We've worked on a variety of projects here. Our latest is this web redesign.
Amazing. Talk to me a little bit about Amy, the type of association that it is.
Yeah, and Amy, just I know you mentioned it, but just for the record here, it's the Association for the Advancement of Medical Instrumentation, colloquially AAMI. We're a standards development organization, and our primary focus is medical devices. So we develop standards and other consensus-based documents to promote the safe and effective use of medical devices and medical technology.
So a big broad-based association. You have individual members, corporate members. Talk to me about kind of like how that membership basis
Yeah, like a
works.
lot of associations, we have a bunch of different member types, individuals, institutions, corporate-based members. We serve a pretty broad stakeholder community, anywhere from people that are boots on the ground in a hospital to somebody that might be working in a factory producing a medical device.
So I think you all are, or I know you all are undertaking this, we'll call us a major new website project. Talk to me a little bit about it. Talk to me about what the future from you all standpoint is going to be with this new website project that you're undertaking.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I think a lot of folks hear new website project and they think a new coat of paint or fancy wallpaper that's being put up over an existing site. And really, that's what we're trying to avoid doing. Yes, we are going to have everything look nice and new and fresh, and it's going to be very, very modern and attractive, I think. But the primary focus is delivering on two fronts that are kind of net new to Amy. One is this idea of the feed being sort of a collection of content that we provide to our stakeholders. And the second being this idea of communities, which is sort of a natural extension of the committees that Amy has with respect to standards development. So we're really excited to bring these two new functionalities to our stakeholder community. We think they're really going to like them, and it seems to be things that they've been asking for based on the feedback we've been hearing.
So obviously, I kind of think I understand this concept of a feed, but kind of talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so the feed idea is this. It's really based on feedback we've been hearing from members. We've been hearing this problem that Amy has great content, we have lots of content, but I can't find it when I want it, or I might not know about it. So, with our diverse stakeholder communities that we have, sometimes stakeholder in group A might not know about content from stakeholder group B. And the feed is really aimed at solving that problem, putting content from across our various product categories across our various stakeholder groups, putting content in front of people in a continuous way so that they can consume content whenever they want, can be informed about content that they may otherwise not know about. And we think that's a pretty big win for us. And the feedback is always, Amy has great content, I just can't find it. So solving that problem is going to be really, really core.
So a user will kind of be able to log in and have essentially a feed of content most relevant to them. Is that kind of the vision behind it?
Exactly, yeah. And you can think, there's tons of parallels in our personal lives and professional lives. If you think of a LinkedIn, a Facebook, any social media site, really, the idea of a feed isn't something that Amy came up with. Certainly,
You didn't invent
it's
it?
something that we're all familiar with. No, it wasn't us.
Yeah.
We'd love to take credit for it, but we saw the success in the way that other platforms deliver content to people, and we thought, Amy has a lot of content. We have a lot of broad content. We have a lot of different stakeholder groups. Let's lean into this idea that's so successful for other companies. Um, Give it a shot and see if it works. And it seems like, based on early feedback we've heard from our stakeholders, and based on some of the feedback we received when we were coming up with this idea, that this is going to be a successful idea.
So what I'm hearing is it's this is what people are expecting, really. When you log into X or Facebook or LinkedIn, you get a feed, and really that's setting the standard for what people are expecting from a content standpoint.
Yeah, people get news from social media sites now, for better or worse. People get updates on products. People get all kinds of breaking things, breaking news, breaking product updates, even standards. I mean, are delivered in news format. And so, if we're able to consolidate our news and our products and our events, updates about Amy, updates about similar groups to Amy, all into a singular location, we know that our members will be able to see it because anytime you log into Amy, there's your feed. And we know that we'll be able to sort of iterate on the type of content that we deliver to people, which is important too from a scalability perspective. So if we hear from members after launch, hey, we're missing some key update that we want to see, whether it's on the standard side or the regulatory side or whatever, we'll be able to introduce that into the feed with the architecture we're sort of designing here.
The other thing you had talked about regarding the project was this idea of creating some communities. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that'll be expressed on the new website?
Yeah, like I mentioned, the communities are sort of this natural extension of standards committees that we have. So for every standard we produce, there's a committee that is involved in the actual production of that document, what the actual text says, the process for balloting that goes into that document. And so these committees are, or excuse me, these communities are designed so that people who may not necessarily be members to participate in committees, or may not have the subject matter expertise to produce a document with other subject matter experts, can still participate in AMI discussions, participate in relevant discourse for their topic area of choice. A great example would be somebody who's boots on the ground at a hospital, may just want to say, "Hey, is anybody going to the annual conference this year? I'd love to connect." And this gives them an outlet to do that.
So it's really about kind of helping with that member engagement, allowing members to collaborate and interact in a little bit more free way.
Exactly, yeah. Member engagement across, inside of communities and then across communities as well. And so again, this idea of this feed is sort of the North Star here, where we may have content from different committees and communities flowing into this feed. And so you may be exposed to groups that you didn't even know existed before. And so we're really hoping that that sort of osmosis of information helps with engagement across the AMI site and helps with growing awareness of different areas that we have.
So this project, right? I mean, we're calling it a website project, but it seems like it's pretty thick in a lot of regards. How did you all start planning for it? I imagine you just didn't wake up one day and said, "Wow, we're building a new website."
The planning process took a really long time. We started with a really clear landscape analysis of what we had in our own environment. It was really important to us that we understood what tools we had, what tools we didn't have, as we sort of coalesced around this feed idea. Once we knew what we had and knew what we wanted to have, we were able to sort of bridge the gaps. And we started with an RFP, of course. We took stock of the landscape of tools that were out in the ecosystem, in the marketplace available to purchase. We kind of narrowed in on not a product, but not fully custom. That's where Taoti came in, obviously, and we began kind of building towards this feed and this community's idea, and the technology kind of followed behind that.
Do you think did you spend like 6 months kind of preparing for this, or was it longer than that?
It was probably around 6 months. I think we started the
Okay.
last summer, and we launched development, I think, at the first of the year, around about there.
So, as an association, obviously you have to get stakeholders involved. Talk to me about what that process has been like, different ways you've tried to drive engagement with stakeholders and really just get them involved in the project.
Yeah, like I said, the stakeholders were kind of involved from the start, even from articulation of the problem, right? And we always try to keep that first principles approach of starting with a problem. And so, in listening to stakeholders over the years, and more explicitly at the start of the project, when we kind of reached out to folks and said, "Hey, what problem can we solve for you? How can we make your experience with Amy better?" We kept coming back to this sort of disparate content idea that we were solving for. And so once we narrowed in on that, we were able to get stakeholders involved in a couple of different ways. Obviously, through sharing our ideas along the way, that was a big piece. Saying, "Hey, is this feed actually gonna move the needle for you guys? Is it gonna bring any meaningful impact to how you engage with Amy?" We also, as we entered the development and the design process a little more, we started to hold these sort of sneak peek sessions, and I think those were kind of unique in the sense that typically when you're showing and sharing progress of a project with your stakeholders, it's going to be Amy or whatever company sharing that status. We kind of flipped that on its head a little bit, and we had the developers and the designers actually share the status of the project and where they were. And so obviously it's one thing if I'm on here singing our praises and telling you how great our project is and how great it's come along, but for our stakeholders to hear directly from the people doing the work, I think that has a little bit of a different weight to it.
And then when you think of some of the feedback that you received from that process, was it a bunch of head nods? Was it talk to me about what was that how that all kind of came about and what that general consensus was?
Yeah, I think it was mostly positive. Again, we had been iterating on this idea collaboratively with external stakeholders, our board internally, and so it shouldn't have been a shock to anybody that we were making progress in this direction as we kind of moved along in the project. But yeah, it was a lot of positive feedback. We heard a couple of ideas on the structure of the site that we hadn't previously considered, and so obviously we want to take all our feedback and kind of dissect it a little bit and make sure that we're applying the feedback in the appropriate spot. But yeah, it's been really positive along the way, and I think our stakeholders, our board, our staff, we're all really excited for this new website.
What I'm hearing from you is that there were really no big grand reveals, right? It's just kind of this iterative showing of folks what was happening to keep them along through the process. Am I kind of thinking about that the right way?
Yeah, I mean, a project like this should be a constant conversation, and I think that's what we efforted to try to make it. Keeping our stakeholders informed along the way, keeping our board informed along the way, and making sure that there was cyclical feedback. I hate to use the word agile project management here, but it was very
Right,
agile
right.
in the way we communicated with our stakeholders.
Nice. All right. And so as an association, you got to and have to continue to provide member value. Talk to me about how you see this project really driving that member value back for the organization and for members.
Yeah, well, I think one of the primary ways we talked about was this you no longer have to hunt for content. So you may be on 10 standards committees, and rather than having to go and check each standard committee for updates, you'll get them directly in your feed. You may attend 3 or 4 AAMI events per year that you would have to go and individually check the calendar for. Now they're going to be presented to you in your feed. The same with products, the same with news articles. So it's sort of a one-stop shop for interacting with Amy, and it's at a minimum a gateway towards getting to the direct content that you are looking for. So we think that's a huge value add on the member side and on the non-member side. So one of the things that we've heard in our member feedback surveys, and I suspect this is probably true with a lot of association-based memberships, um, is we want more for less, we want more free, we want more access to things. And so being able to consolidate all this content and give it to non-members as well is going to be a huge time save. It's going to be a huge decision in how to engage and interact with Amy moving forward. And so we think that's a pretty big win as well.
My final question for you is about advice. What kind of advice would you have for other associations who are thinking about an initiative like this or kind of dipping their toe in something that might be similar?
Yeah, I mean, technology projects aren't a solved science. PMI likes to put out all the traditional guidance associated with, make sure to get stakeholders involved early. We tried to follow that. Make sure to have clearly defined roles of your project. Typical and traditional guidance like that. Beyond that type of stuff, though, I think one of the things that's made us successful so far is, like I mentioned earlier, keeping this sort of first principles approach towards development, where we really start with a problem that we want to solve. um, that has been super guiding for us thus far. Being able to make sure that we have that problem statement clearly defined, agreed upon by everybody, and everybody bought into solving it has been instrumental. I also think that one of the things that's been valuable to AAMI is making sure that all of our stakeholders internally had a really clear understanding of our information architecture. um, a lot of the tools that we evaluated were kind of rip and replace tools where we would yank out our current stack or components of our current stack and replace it with something else. And without a really holistic understanding of all of the different components in that information architecture, we ran a big risk of having some unintended consequences if we were to do a rip and replace type of build.
So what I'm hearing from you is that it was a lot about taking what you have and kind of leveraging those tools to be able to create a feed and not necessarily feel like, oh, this is a large project. We're going to get stressed out over it and look at all of these other systems that we have that we need to now kind of rethink.
Yeah, exactly. We were able to kind of divide and conquer with respect to how we thought of the project, where we knew that we had data in system A and we knew that it could flow to system B. And part of that was our uh, resistance to being afraid of the three-letter word API that a lot of associations kind of balk at a little bit. When we started to shift our thinking and not be afraid of integrating systems, that really kind of broadened the horizon for what was going to be available to us from a technical front.
It's almost like it sounds like it was like liberating, where you're like, hey, we're not going to be afraid of leveraging the technology. Let's just figure out a better way to bring it together.
Exactly. We knew we could do it, and we knew we had all the data. So just figuring out where we wanted it to go was kind of the unlocking moment for us.
Nice. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much. It's, I know, an unbelievable project, and it's been really exciting to collaborate with you all on that. So thank you very, very much. So our next video is going to be in another couple of weeks. We're going to welcome Justin Sykes, and he's actually going to talk about the technology behind it and how we're able to leverage different forms of technology to be able to create more of these member-driven experiences. Thank you.